Good morning. This is an excerpt from congressional testimony last week, and it perfectly summarizes all the problems that we're facing now in Western governments and Western industries, and that these problems were brought on by ourselves. First, the United States believed, and has formulated policy based upon, the notion that China is incapable of innovation. And as a consequence of that catastrophic misjudgment, we are now uncompetitive with China, both in military and strategic capability and in industrial productivity. It's now obvious that China is way ahead, and nobody in Washington has any idea what to do about it now. But the reason that Washington got everything so wrong on China is that because our think tanks and our biggest companies had everything wrong on China. It was Silicon Valley companies who said that the semiconductor bans would work, who said that the United States was a generation ahead and that the Chinese could never catch up. It was American and German and Japanese car makers who were oblivious to what was going on in their own industry, unaware of what was happening in Chinese car factories that are just down the street from the ones they had here in China. These are the people who were paid a lot of money to understand China, and they didn't, and they still don't. Here are some more highlights. The United States is at risk of falling behind China in artificial intelligence and robotics. Unexpected. That's the words they keep using because we listened to people who said that these big gains weren't possible at all. Here's their prescription: develop stronger ties with allies, loosen the visa rules for Chinese to come over. Okay, on the first thing, I thought we were already doing that. And last week, Congress was told to tighten the visa rules and kick Chinese nationals out of labs doing AI work. So what's the strategy for this week? Back in 2015, China published over 260 industrial goals, which they aim to achieve by 2025, this year. These objectives span 10 highly specialized and complex areas and necessitated high levels of innovation in order to achieve them. China was aiming then at not merely being competitive with Western companies and industry, but ahead of us. That's the definition of innovation if we're looking for one. There's nobody around anymore to cheat off of. Fast forward to now, 86% of those goals have been achieved, and a bunch more are going to be done this year, 2025, or next year. Here are some tangible effects that anyone living here can see anytime we walk outside. Electric cars are everywhere. Comac is taking on Boeing and Airbus and flying millions of passengers every year here in China, and soon will be doing tens of millions everywhere else. Everyone has 5G. China's factories are the smartest and most efficient in the world. China builds 200 times more ships than the United States. Now the West is confused that nothing we thought was going to work actually did, and so we're doubling down. More trade wars, more sanctions, and nobody here really thinks those will work this time now that China's stronger than ever. The most notable and recent failure has been in semiconductors and our bans on advanced chips. The thinking was that if we starved them of the technology to make advanced electronics, they couldn't, and if we starved them of revenues in Europe and North America, that their companies would go bankrupt. Despite this challenge, or better to say because of this challenge, China achieved most of their goals here anyway. Not only did China develop the technologies, now they're taking markets from our companies. Aerospace. No American chips or parts or tech can go toward China's space programs, so China used homegrown talent for all that, and it has paid off. They went to Mars, built a low Earth orbit satellite system and a space station, landed on the moon, and are developing reusable rockets. In power and energy, China is now ahead, now a leader, not a follower. They have the world's most efficient and clean coal power, new fleets of nuclear power plants, and are now at least a decade ahead on nuclear. Hydropower, solar, wind, power transmission. China is the undisputed global leader. Those quantum leaps in power generation have made China's factory sector even more competitive, and Chinese AI less expensive to run than anywhere else. Robotics, farm equipment tech, Drugs and pharmaceuticals, shipbuilding, all their goals were achieved. Chinese drugs are now being sold in our markets at pennies on the dollar. Of course, our patients are paying the same high prices, but Big Pharma is just making a lot more money by using the Chinese drugs. Agricultural output is booming, and that's another unexpected. And finally, there's shipbuilding again, and unexpected gains in chemistry and applied science. And here's the money quote: "Containment by the West is accelerating China's technological self-reliance." It does beg the question that when our lawmakers and top officials have hearings to formulate policy about China, why do we keep inviting the people back over and over again who've been so wrong about China? Everything they said we should do has been wrong, because everything they thought they knew about China was wrong. This is the world's tallest outdoor elevator, Bailong Elevator in Hunan province. Be good.
Do unto others as you want others to do for you. Store up for yourself treasure in heaven. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. No man can serve two masters. You cannot